The steam was thick, curling around me like a living thing. When the bathroom door creaked open, my heart stopped, the water scalding my skin as I froze, naked and exposed, staring at the silhouette in the doorway. It wasn't my mother, it was him, my stepfather. And the words he whispered that night would haunt me forever. My name is Eli, 18, a senior in a sleepy Ohio town where secrets fester like damp, rotten old wood. Our house, a sagging two-story with peeling paint, was a battlefield of silence. My mother, Linda, worked night shifts at the hospital, leaving me alone with Tom, her new husband of 2 years. Tom was a man of few words, a former Marine with a jaw like granite and eyes that seemed to see through walls. I hated how he filled the house with his presence, his boots by the door, his coffee mug on the counter, his quiet stares that lingered too long. That night, I'd come home late from a shift at the diner, my body aching from hours of wiping tables and dodging Mr. Grayson's complaints about cold fries. The shower was my sanctuary, the one place I could wash away the grease and the weight of pretending to be someone I wasn't. I'd known I was gay since I was 13, but in a town where the church steeple loomed larger than any dream, I kept it buried deep. No one knew, not my mom, not my best friend Sarah, not even myself. Most days, I was good at hiding, or so I thought. The door opened without a knock. I spun around, clutching the shower curtain, my pulse hammering in my throat. Tom stood there, his broad frame blocking the light from the hallway. His flannel shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, and his eyes, those piercing gray eyes, locked onto mine. I expected anger, maybe disgust, but what I saw was something else. Something softer. Something that made my stomach twist in a way I didn't understand. "Eli," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "You don't have to hide who you are. Not from me." The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I stood there, water dripping down my face, the curtain barely covering me, and he didn't move. He just watched, not with judgment, but with a knowing that scared me more than anything. Then he turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him. I didn't sleep that night. His words echoed in my head, each syllable a spark igniting questions I'd never dared to ask. How did he know? What did he mean? And why did his voice, rough and quiet, make my chest ache in a way that wasn't entirely fear? The next morning, I avoided him. I grabbed my backpack and slipped out before breakfast, my sneakers crunching on the frost-covered grass. School was a blur. Algebra equations and cafeteria chatter faded into static as I replayed the moment in the bathroom. By the time I got to my last period, art class, I was a mess. That's where I met Caleb. Caleb was new, a transfer from Chicago with a leather jacket and a smile that could stop time. He sat at the back, sketching in a notebook, his dark hair falling into his eyes. I'd noticed him the first day he arrived, but I kept my distance. Guys like Caleb, confident, sharp, with a laugh that drew every head in the room, didn't talk to guys like me. I was the quiet kid, the one who blended into the walls. But that day, he slid into the seat next to me. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, his voice teasing but kind. I shrugged, my pencil scratching aimlessly on my sketch pad. He leaned closer, his shoulder brushing mine, and pointed at my drawing, a jagged, abstract mess. "That's intense. What's got you so wound up?" I didn't answer, but his eyes held mine, warm and curious. And for the first time in forever, I felt seen. Not the way Tom had seen me, with that unsettling clarity, but in a way that made me want to speak, to spill everything. I didn't. Of course. I just mumbled something about a bad night and changed the subject. Over the next few weeks, Caleb became a constant. We'd talk in art class, share headphones at lunch, and once, when it rained, he offered me a ride home in his beat-up Honda. I learned he was staying with his aunt after his parents kicked him out. He didn't say why, but the way his jaw tightened told me it wasn't a happy story. I wanted to ask, but I was too afraid of my own secrets spilling out. At home, things with Tom grew stranger. He didn't bring up the bathroom incident, but he'd leave small gestures, a new sketchpad on my desk, a note saying he'd fixed my bike. Each one felt like a question, an invitation to talk. But I couldn't. Not yet. My mom noticed the tension, but chalked it up to teenage moodiness. She was too tired to dig deeper. One night, Caleb texted me to meet him at the old quarry outside town. It was a place kids went to drink or hook up. But at 10 p.m., it was just us and the stars. He was sitting on a rock, his jacket slung over his shoulder, a cigarette dangling from his lips. I sat beside him, the cold stone biting through my jeans. "Why do you always look like you're carrying the world?" he asked, blowing smoke into the night. I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Just family stuff." He nodded, like he understood. Then he turned to me, his face half lit by the moon, and said, "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life?" My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him everything about Tom, about the bathroom, about the part of me I kept locked away. But instead, I just nodded. He reached out, his hand brushing mine, and my heart stuttered. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he pulled back, his smile sad. "Let's make a deal," he said. "No more hiding. Not from each other." I didn't know what he meant, but I agreed. That night, as I lay in bed, Tom's words and Caleb's touch tangled in my mind, pulling me towards something I couldn't name. I was scared, but for the first time, I wasn't alone. The quarry became our place. Caleb and I met there every few nights, sneaking out after my mom left for work and Tom retreated to his study. We'd sit on that same rock, sharing stories and silences, the air between us charged with something unspoken. I learned more about him, how he'd been outed at his old school, how his parents called him a mistake, how he'd fought to keep his head up. His courage made me feel small, but it also made me want to be brave. One night, under a sky heavy with clouds, he kissed me. It was quick, almost accidental, his lips brushing mine as he leaned to point at a constellation. I froze, my heart a wild thing in my chest. But he just smiled, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. I wasn't okay. I was terrified, exhilarated, alive. I kissed him back, clumsy and desperate. And for a moment, the world was just us two boys stealing a piece of freedom in a town that would never understand. But the high didn't last. As I walked home, my lips still tingling, Tom's words from that night in the bathroom echoed again. "You don't have to hide." Did he know about this, too? Was he watching me unravel? The next day at school, Caleb was different. He was still warm, still quick with a joke, but there was a shadow in his eyes. During lunch, he pulled me aside, Someone saw us at the quarry, he said, his voice low. They're talking. My stomach dropped. In a town like ours, gossip was a weapon. By the end of the day, whispers followed me in the halls. Fag. Someone hissed as I passed. I kept my head down. But inside, I was spiraling. Caleb found me after school, his face tight with worry. We'll figure this out, he said, but I could hear the fear in his voice. At home, things got worse. Tom was waiting in the kitchen when I got back, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug. You've been out late a lot, he said, not looking at me. With that boy. I froze, my backpack slipping from my shoulder. It's nothing, I lied, but my voice cracked. He looked up then, his eyes searching mine. Eli, I meant what I said. You don't have to hide. Not from me. Not from anyone. I wanted to believe him, but the weight of his gaze, the memory of that night in the bathroom, made me feel exposed all over again. You don't get it, I snapped. This town'll destroy us. He stood, crossing the room in 2 strides. And for a second, I thought he might grab me. But he just put a hand on my shoulder, heavy and warm. I've seen worse than this town, he said. And I've seen people survive worse. You're stronger than you think. His words stayed with me, but so did the fear. The next week was a nightmare. Someone spray-painted queer on my locker. Caleb got into a fight with a kid who called him out in the cafeteria, and the principal threatened to suspend him. I wanted to stand up, to fight back, but every time I tried, the words stuck in my throat. I was letting Caleb down, letting myself down. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the quarry alone, hoping the silence would clear my head. But Caleb was already there, sitting on our rock, his face bruised from the fight. I can't keep doing this, he said when he saw me, pretending I'm okay when I'm not. I sat beside him, my heart breaking. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm not brave like you. He laughed, bitter and soft. You think I'm brave? I'm terrified, Eli. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. His words hit harder than Tom's ever had. I reached for his hand, and this time, I didn't pull away. We sat there until dawn, holding onto each other, the world fading to nothing but the warmth of his skin against mine. But the world doesn't stay quiet for long. The next day, my mom found out. Someone had sent her a photo and Caleb at the quarry, our hands tangled together. She was waiting when I got home, her face pale, her hands shaking. Is this true? She asked, holding up her phone. I couldn't lie anymore. Yeah, I said, my voice barely a whisper. It's true. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time, and said, I need time. Tom was there, too, silent in the doorway. I waited for him to say something, anything, but he just watched, his expression unreadable. That night, I lay awake, wondering if I'd lost everything me mom, my home, my chance at a normal life. But even in the darkness, I could still feel Caleb's hand in mine, and I knew I'd fight for that, no matter what. The days that followed were a tightrope walk. My mom barely spoke to me, her silence louder than any argument. Tom tried to bridge the gap, making small talk over breakfast. But it felt forced, like he was trying to hold together a house already crumbling. At school, the whispers grew louder, and Caleb's bruises faded slower than the rumors. But he never wavered. He'd find me between classes, slip a note into my locker, or just sit with me in silence, his presence a lifeline. One night, I overheard my mom and Tom arguing. Her voice was sharp, accusing. "You knew, didn't you? And you didn't tell me." "I saw it in him," Tom said, his tone steady. "Same way I saw it in my brother." I froze outside the kitchen, my heart pounding. Tom had a brother. He'd never mentioned family before. I leaned closer, catching fragments of their conversation, words like disowned, alone, didn't deserve it. When I heard Tom say, "Eli deserves better than that," something in me broke open. The next day, I confronted him. He was in the garage, tinkering with an old radio, his hands steady despite the weight of my stare. "What did you mean about your brother?" I asked. He set the radio down, wiping his hands on a rag. "My brother, James, was like you," he said. "Loved someone he wasn't supposed to. Our dad kicked him out when he was 17. I didn't stand up for him then. I won't make that mistake again." His words hit like a wave, washing away the fear I'd carried since that night in the bathroom. Tom wasn't just my stepfather, was someone who'd seen pain like mine and chosen to fight for me. I didn't know how to thank him, so I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. That weekend, Caleb and I decided to face the town together. We went to the diner, sat in a booth by the window, and held hands across the table. People stared, some with disgust, others with curiosity. But for the first time, I didn't care. I was done hiding. When Mr. Grayson muttered something under his breath, Caleb squeezed my hand, and I found the strength to stare him down. My mom came around slowly. One night, she sat me down and apologized. "I was scared," she said, tears in her eyes. "Not of you, but of what this world might do to you. I just want you to be safe." "I'm not safe if I'm not me," I told her, and for the first time, she really listened. The turning point came at the spring talent show. Caleb convinced me to perform a duet with him, a song he'd written about finding light in the dark. I was terrified, but as we stood on that stage, his voice blending with mine, I felt invincible. The crowd was quiet at first, but by the end, some clapped, and a few even cheered. It wasn't acceptance. Not fully, but it was a start. After the show, Tom found me backstage. He didn't say much, just clapped me on the shoulder and said, "I'm proud of you, kid." It was the first time I realized he wasn't just my stepfather, was family. Caleb and I kept fighting. Together. We faced the whispers, the hate, the fear. But we also found ally Sarah, who stood up for us at school. A teacher who started a GSA club. Even Mr. Grayson, who eventually stopped muttering and started nodding hello. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. That summer, Caleb got a scholarship to an art school in Chicago. The night before he left, we went back to the quarry one last time. We didn't talk much, just lay on our rock, watching the stars. "You changed me," he said, his voice soft. "You made me believe I could be enough." "You were always enough," I told him, and I meant it. He left, but we didn't end. We called, texted, visited when we could. I stayed in Ohio, working at the diner, saving for college, and slowly rebuilding my relationship with my mom. Tom was there through it all, quiet but steady. A reminder that family isn't just blood, it's the people who see you and stay. Looking back, that night in the bathroom wasn't just a moment of fear, it was the start of everything. Tom's whispered words broke open the cage I'd built around myself. And Caleb's love gave me the courage to step out. I'm still learning what it means to live as me. But every step feels like freedom. And I'll never go back.